Hello, Booktube. I'm Peg, and welcome to my channel. Well, if you've been on Booktube very much this week, you've probably noticed there's quite a little plague going around where people are admitting to have a little bit of book fatigue or reader's ennui or that sort of thing. They're just kind of tired of reading, and it makes me shudder to think of that. What would I do if I didn't read? Though I have to admit, I am having a little bit of that these last 2 weeks where I'm reading tomes for the tome topple, and I purposely selected books I knew I'd like, but I think maybe they were all too much the same. All my books are either neo-Victorian or Victorian, and they all kind of meld together in my head. I'm really ready for something different. I am going to try to finish them all five of them by Thursday, and have a report here on them. But I needed a little break, so I'm thinking about some other books today. Okay, this talk about different popular big time booktubers having a little bit of book fatigue or wondering what's going on, or not enjoying maybe reading as much as they used to, has several very good answers by other experienced readers and booktubers. There's two main fixes that two of my favorite booktubers have given. Steve Donahue kind of talks about maybe it's because of the book read's way of giving books a rating from 1 to 5, and just thinking about that and comparing that, and suddenly if you start a book and it's not going to be a 4 or 5, you're not really interested. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I didn't do well with that rating system myself, so that was, I kind of agree with him there. And the one I really liked that applies to me is Sean the Book Maniac. Just made a video where he suggested what he calls bailing on books you don't like. Just don't read them. And he gives a very good case for that. And I have to admit, been doing some of that too. So anyway, putting those together, I want to tell you about my method I've decided that fixes that book fatigue I sometimes feel. And it's to read the short list of the many book prizes that are being awarded now for English written books. I just made a list the other day of ones that are coming up in the new year, and there's like over 20. Now, I should probably call myself the book addict junkie or book prize addict or whatever, because if you've been watching my channel for very long, you know there's no book prize I really don't like. I love to get the 5 or 6 that are on a short list, and knowing nothing about them, read through them and make my own decisions what's best, and announce it here on Booktube, and then be made to look like a fool when it never wins the one. But still, it's great fun. And I was thinking about what is it about these that I don't get tired of, and I just look forward to doing more and more. And I think one of the things is that they're all new to me, or new, and they're all different. Most book lists maybe I've read 1 or 2 of them, but I haven't read them in a way to compare with the others. Now that's how I read them. I try to get all the ones on the short list, either library, used bookstores. At last resort, I'll buy it, but that doesn't really happen too often. I'm getting pretty good at being a sleuth and finding them used. Anyway, but I love that, getting that pile of books and just reading through them. Now, what I'm doing is I'm comparing them with each other, and I'm going to end up with a list from the best to the worst. So if there's one I just don't like, I just bail, and you can imagine it's going to be last on the list. So I don't force myself to finish any, but I have to say most of them I've run into a lot more good ones than bad ones. And I think the reason is, I mean, they were chosen by someone who liked them, judges who supposedly know a little bit about books. So I rarely find just a completely horrible one. And so that's what I find in that. I also find in the reading of these that even the genre book prizes have good, almost quality fiction in them. I love there's many science fiction, best science fiction prizes each year. They'll be coming up in the spring. Actually, the British one is coming up right after the first of the year. And some of those, several of them, two or three of them, are administered by university departments that have a science fiction department. And they always have really high quality science fiction that is, there's no question about it, being also literary fiction. And they have writings and reviews of it from people during the selection or the prize period that's fun to read after I've read it. So I also like that. There's also a couple translation prizes translated into English, and those are very interesting and have many on Goodreads. There are several forums that discuss those. I guess that's part of the fun, is reading the books at the same time somebody else is reading them, and being in on, or at least listening to, the discussion. So those are some of the things I enjoy so much about book prizes. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about, there's almost always a book prize going on, it seems like. There are going to be 4 that I'll be reading, different ones for in December, as soon as I finish this Tome Topple thing. And I thought I'd just quickly go through those with you. If anybody wants to read along with me, that would be great. First coming up, we have the DSC South Asian Prize. Now, this has been, this is administered actually in India, and it can be anything written by an Asian, about an Asian. Even there's some of them that on the long list that were immigrants from South Asia, here in the U.S. and their problems. So it has really many different kinds of books in it, and I thought I'd show you. I'll be talking about this probably next week as soon as the tome thing is done. But a couple of them that I have, 3 of them actually were at my library, and a couple that I've had to order were The Living. And it's a dual story of a young woman and an older Asian man in their lives, and very realistic, I guess you would say, of the modern problems that people face. And this one, called In the Jungles of Night, is about Jim Corbett, who was a big game hunter in India. And what he didn't just kill for the thrill of it. There's lions and tigers were a real problem amongst the little villages there in India, and there were some of them that had killed like 200 people. And so he used his skill as a big game hunter to kill these killer tigers, and actually did a lot for the conservation of the wildlife there in a good way. So this is a novel based on his life, and interesting. This is the hardest book I ever was able to get. It wasn't very expensive, but I had to order it from India, and the postage was more than the book itself costs. So that's but most of them, when they're on prize lists, become pretty easy to get. Okay, the next 2 book prizes that are kind of together are the Costa prizes, but I'm interested in 2 on that one. First, we have the debut novel, and the famous booktuber Simon Savage is a judge on that. He's been talking about it for months, as he secretly read all the entries, and actually just now this week made a video talking about. And his category is the best debut novel. Now, I just picked up one of those from the library, Eleanor Oliphant, and I came up on the list just in time for that, and I'll start reading that soon. And another one is called The Clocks in the House All Tell Different Times. You can't see this, I know, daytime thing doesn't look good. But it was on Kindle for like $2 and something. So I hit it right then. I think the other two on the list, these all just have 4 each, are either I'm on the waiting list for, or I've found used, and they'll be coming at some point. Uh, okay, the Booker, or the Costa Prize for Best Novel, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. Had actually two that I had already had the books for because they'd been up for another prize. Well, actually one, and that was Reservoir 13, which I'm looking forward to rereading. It was up for the Booker and the Goldsmiths, I believe, and I'm looking forward to rereading it and comparing it with these books. Anyway, so one of the ones that's on this is The Tin Man. I've been hearing about this for a long time and anxious to actually read it. And another one, which I just picked up at the library, a thick one, Under a Pole Star. So these will be two of the 4 on that list. This prize is announced, the winner of each category is announced on January 2nd. So I have a little more time to read those. Okay, and the really exciting one that's coming up that I just discovered is an Australian prize for best novels called the Prime Minister's Prize. And I've actually put links to all these prizes down below. So if you're interested in them or you want to read along, you can look at them. I was afraid that Australian books might be kind of hard to find or prohibitively expensive to order from Australia, but actually almost all of them are already available on Kindle, and quite a few of them I found used. There's already copies of them here in the U.S., so they'll be coming. Used books take a little longer to come, so they'll be coming. But here are two that I have gotten, which I know nothing about, but I will. But I don't really know when this is going to be awarded. It must be off after the first of the year. Their website really doesn't tell, so I better get to reading them. Okay, here's one called The Last Days of Ava Langdon. I don't know anything about it. If you guys do, let me know, but I'll be reading it anyway. And this one looks quite interesting, called Their Brilliant Careers. It says it's the fantastic lives of 16 extraordinary Australian writers. And I understand it's written in a kind of a postmodern type way, and it is fiction, so these aren't real writers. But I'm anxious to get in on that. Okay, so my book fatigue has just gone away, even thinking about these book prizes that are coming up. I can't wait to get started on them. First, I got to finish up those tomes that I'm reading, and I'll be back on Thursday, hopefully finished with those and ready to start on the book prizes. Okay, thanks.